All right, let's get right into it, because the news has just been absolutely dominated by this one story. Pakistan has declared open war on Afghanistan. This came right after a massive bombing raid on Kabul, the capital. And we need to be clear, this isn't just another border skirmish. This is a full-blown declaration of war, and believe me, the entire world is watching very, very closely.
And there's no reading between the lines here. Pakistan's own defense minister, Khawaja Asif, he just came right out and said it on social media. Now it is open war. I mean, you can't get much clearer than that. It's a signal that all the talking is over, diplomacy is off the table, and we're officially in a brand new and honestly a much scarier phase of this whole thing.
And behind that declaration is a devastating number. Pakistan is claiming that its bombing of Kabul led to 133 deaths. Now that is a huge jump from any of the previous attacks we've seen. We're talking about a massive loss of life here. And it seems like this was the event that really pushed both sides right over the edge.
So how does a country get to this point? How do you justify declaring open war? Well, let's break down the series of pretty fiery accusations that Pakistan's government has been making against the Taliban to explain why they're doing this.
Okay, first up, and this one is a bombshell. Pakistan's defense minister is claiming that the Taliban government isn't really in charge anymore. He's saying Afghanistan has become a colony of their biggest rival, India. It's basically an accusation that they're a puppet state, and it's a claim clearly designed to just completely undermine the legitimacy of the government in Kabul.
And then there's this charge. They're saying the Taliban is actively bringing in terrorists from all over the place, turning them into weapons, and then exporting them straight into Pakistan. So the story they're trying to tell is, hey, we're not the aggressors here, we're the victims, and we're just defending ourselves from attacks sponsored by another country.
This one really tells you everything you need to know about their mindset. With this quote, Pakistan is essentially saying, look, we tried everything. We tried talking, we had our friends try to talk to them, and all we got back was more aggression. So the message is pretty blunt. Our patience is gone. Force is the only language they'll understand. So, let's just pull this all together. Pakistan's case is this. The Taliban are puppets for India. They're suddenly very concerned about women's rights under the Taliban, and they feel completely betrayed after, as they point out, hosting millions of Afghan refugees for half a century. And it all leads up to this final, chilling warning. We're your neighbors, we know all your weaknesses, and we know exactly how to hit you where it hurts.
Okay, so that's the political talk. But let's shift gears and look at what's happening on the actual battlefield. Because in any war, there's what the officials say, and then there's what's really going on. And right now, the situation on the ground is chaotic, and the reports we're getting are all over the place.
This is probably the biggest question that has been flying around online. Right after the bombing in Kabul, all these reports started popping up from Afghan officials and people on the ground saying they shot down a Pakistani fighter jet, maybe an F-16 or a JF-17. So, did it really happen?
All right, let's try to separate fact from fiction. The main video that you've probably seen claiming to show the crash, it's almost certainly fake. But, and this is a really big but, that doesn't mean a jet wasn't shot down. It just means the proof everyone is sharing isn't real. Officially, the whole thing is still unconfirmed. It's definitely possible. I mean, these jets were in enemy airspace. But for now, we just don't have any hard evidence.
But you might be wondering, how could Afghan forces even do that against the modern Air Force? Well, the answer comes down to a piece of gear called a manpad. It's a missile you can fire right from your shoulder, and it's designed to take down aircraft. For a force like the Taliban, this could be an absolute game changer.
So if you look at their arsenal, it's a real mixed bag. They've got these old Soviet anti-aircraft guns, but honestly, those are pretty useless against modern jets. But then, they have an unknown number of Stinger missiles. Yeah, the same American-made manpads that were left behind. And in the right situation, those things are incredibly lethal. They pose a very, very real threat to Pakistan's Air Force.
And make no mistake, Afghanistan is not just sitting there and taking it. The Taliban is claiming they've launched a major counteroffensive all along the border. They're releasing their own videos and statements saying they've already destroyed 13 Pakistani military posts and are in the middle of some really intense fighting. They are sending a very clear message: we will fight back.
And all of this brings us to a much bigger, more strategic question. What if this whole war isn't actually about retaliation? What if the terrorist attacks are just the excuse, and there's a much bigger prize that someone is really after?
So just think about it for a second. What on earth could be so valuable that Pakistan would risk a full-scale war with its neighbor?
A war that would be bloody, expensive, and incredibly difficult to win. What's the ultimate price? Well, a pretty compelling theory points to one place: the Bagram Air Base. Yep, that Bagram, the massive, strategic heart of U.S. operations in the region for 20 years. Some analysts believe that base is the true objective of this entire war.
And if you look at the timeline, it starts to make a weird kind of sense. This didn't come out of nowhere. It started with smaller attacks, which got bigger, and then bigger, until you get the bombing of Kabul. When you see it laid out like that, the declaration of war looks less like a reaction and more like the next step in a plan to create a reason for a ground invasion aimed right at Bagram.
So the core of this whole theory is that Pakistan might not even be acting on its own. It could be a puppet for a superpower, maybe the US, maybe China, that really wants control of that airbase. The idea is that Pakistan starts the war, creates a path to the base, grabs it, and then hands over the keys in exchange for a massive political and financial reward.
And that leaves us right here with the central question of this whole crisis. Is this just a reckless, desperate gamble by Pakistan that's about to blow up in their face? Or is this a cold, calculated geopolitical chess move orchestrated by bigger players with the Bagram Air Base as the ultimate prize? Right now, we just don't know. All we can do is watch this open war unfold.